Happy Saturday, guys.
Happy Saturday.
I'm back, and so is Corey here. And this is actually a follow-up to a previous discussion we had. Prior to this, I was watching Stranger Things, and we did a discussion video on episode 1 through 4. But we wanted to kind of touch base again, since we were both big fans of the show. We wanted to touch base and kind of wrap up the season 1 series with the discussion. So, Corey, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back. Really excited about talking about the show. It was a really, really great ride, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it, especially if they look into it.
This was absolutely fantastic. Like the Duffer Brothers, I know you were giving them high praise in kind of the first discussion here, but they knocked it out of the park with this. It was an absolute 80s roller coaster filled with just love and joy and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a big time love fest for anything that we grew up during, sort of the millennial generation, if not a little bit earlier, depending on your D&D proclivities.
So we left off. I think we left off at episode 4. I think we delved a little bit into 5, but I kind of want to touch a couple things in episode 5. First and foremost, I wanted to discuss the lab. Kind of went through great lengths to create a doll, like a fake version of Will. I was kind of wondering your thoughts on why the hell would they release Hopper into his trailer and pretend he was drunk. Like, it seemed like it was almost like a loose end, like they were keeping it, unless it was just kind of like the whole old school 80s vibe of, well, not everyone just dies, like there's some goodness in the world. Like, why did they leave him in that trailer?
That's a great question, and I think it's probably comes down to one of those sort of things where they needed a MacGuffin or a reason to push the story forward in some way, and that's just sort of the way that they chose to go with it.
We also kind of learned in episode 5 of the big Veil of Shadows reveal.
Yeah,
I think this was the episode where they were talking to the science teacher. The science teacher was I was kind of expecting like some resistance, but it was like 80s awesome. Like the science teacher was like, "Yep. This is what's going on." Like, you know what I mean?
I'm with you. And, it was exactly sort of what everybody's childhood dream would be in that sort of situation where they have the buy-in from an adult and they're just going to go on these great shenanigans. And I thought it was a really interesting trope to throw into the show because we see a lot of that sort of dual world play in video games. And I thought it was interesting to bring it from video games and spread it a bit closer to television. So I thought that was an interesting stylistic choice.
That teacher was playing Dungeons & Dragons like 2 years ago. He's probably still playing Dungeons & Dragons with his friends. That was absolutely awesome. We also saw at the end of this episode Elle tossing Lucas, getting pissed off at the group and tossing Lucas 20 feet into the air. That was...
Yeah, but Lucas was kind of a dick. I mean, like, ultimately, like, they make up and everything, and that's nice. But at the same time, I feel like Lucas could have been a more understanding friend as opposed to just reactionary.
Okay, so actually, we're on the same page because Lucas was a dick. The whole time he was like, anti-Elle, and I was like, just trust her a little bit, just trust her. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't even say that like he's a full-on dick because he's concerned for his friend. Like, there's a spectrum of dickishness, right? And he's probably just right around here, just a little bit of a dick.
Yeah, okay, cool. What I liked about this is we had a whole team of people that now believe in this Veil of Shadows that are on kind of the good side. I guess I like it when a bunch of a number of protagonists actually they get on the same page before like the final act. You know what I mean?
Like it's sort of like the preparation or the training montage scene where the entire team gets in lockstep and then starts marching forward, and like that's just sort of a visual language that really builds tension in movies and television shows, and I thought it was a great use of it there as well, because that's really sort of one of my favorite types of scenes, like whether it be The Lost Boys, Monster Squad, where there's just that sense of preparation before a big battle, and that's what it's like in video games as well. So like that's yet another sort of nod to video games, I think.
Skipping right to episode 8 here, how cool was it that there was like this, they almost like, okay, like what other 80s tropes can they throw into this, right? MacGyver, like why not MacGyver? Yes. Like when they were going through the whole deal with like making their homemade weapons and their trope, like it was just not even like Home Alone, it was like more MacGyver, like let's make stuff out of pencils and like
and also Goonies as well.
Yes, of course, yes.
Sort of that childlike ingenuity that tugs at everybody's sort of emotional heartstrings around childhood.
I was watching that and I was like, just literally like, just like, fist pumping because it was just so cool.
Yeah, definitely.
By the end of episode 8, I gotta kind of bring up one instance here. Like the whole spoilers. So if you don't want to know any of the ending sequences, cut off now. Spoiler alert. The sequence at the end when Hopper was standing over Will, and it was one of those kind of, it had the potential to be one of those cliche CPR, save scenes. And I guess maybe in the end it was, because he does end up doing it. But I gotta tell you, Corey, I got a little wet in the eyes when it was kind of flashbacks to his daughter and stuff, and he was just like beating the hell out of him. And I don't know, that kind of got me a little bit. That was a good moment.
Yeah, it was a really nice moment. I agree.
The absolute end of the show, like we have this last scene and Will's doing his thing and he goes into the bathroom. All of a sudden he's kind of looking into the mirror and boom, out pops this slug-like creature right out of his eye. Like, is that okay? There's no way that could be like a dream sequence, right? That's not like
right. No, there's no way it's a dream sequence. This is definitely real. This is definitely happening. And I think that's a real good opportunity that the show has, is to sort of take season 2 from the perspective of Will and sort of talk about the changes that he went through being sort of on the other side, and whether or not there's another side past that. This could go from all the way down to like quantum theory and sort of the idea of parallel universes and things like that. So things could get pretty crazy toward the end of this show, but it really depends on what they want to do with it, and it might even go more horror-like for that matter.
That is actually an interesting point. More horror. That would kind of...
Yeah, and it could definitely... it seems like it's lending itself toward that with Will at the end, with the body horror of something coming out of his body. They could definitely go that direction with it as well. It will be interesting to see what they have to do with it.
Let me ask you this question. By the end of the season, what were your thoughts on Steve? Did he make the turn for you? Like, the guy was a dick, right? But
yeah,
did he make the turn by the end?
You remember that scale that I was talking about earlier?
Yeah.
Steve's all the way over. Fuck Steve. I hope he dies.
I like the last scene where he's in his Christmas sweater, just sitting on the couch with Nancy. He has his little plumed hair over the top. Like, exactly. I kind of like in the end, he kind of blew off his friends for Nancy. Like, I'm kind of like, he's a strong-willed boy, but I kind of turned back toward him a little bit. That makes me a dick. I don't know, but
we'll see in season 2, I guess.
I think we could safely say that Matthew Modine isn't really Elle's father, right?
I think we could safely say that.
Okay, so do you think we'll ever find out who Elle's biological father is? And the second part to that question, I read some kind of theories after this whole thing, and do you think there's any chance it could be Hopper?
I think it's entirely possible that Elle might be some sort of alternate universe version of Hopper's daughter, which would be an interesting way to bring his character arc to a close. But I think that might be a little far-fetched for the show. It really depends on how many steps they take in between now and that actual reveal.
I hope Hopper isn't the father. I mean, for one, they already showed the daughter, right?
Right.
But that'd be kind of cheesy, I think. Anyway, are there more monsters? Do you think there's any more monsters?
Definitely. If they were going to do the show correctly in any way, shape, or form, there would be more monsters. And if they were really smart and really had some clout, they might contract out to some Guillermo del Toro, because I feel like sort of mix Guillermo del Toro and maybe Greg Nicotero and see what those two can come up with. I think that would be absolutely wonderful addition to season 2.
That definitely had some del Toro feels to it. That was the whole flower face thing. That was pretty.
It was fantastic. I liked it.
But I think you're right. I think if they were to kind of extend on this universe, this upside down, they're gonna have to wow us with some other creature design. So exactly.
Yeah.
On that note, what did you pick up any connection between, like, obviously when Elle disappeared, when the monster kind of disappeared, I guess safe to say I didn't quite understand that relationship. I didn't quite understand the connection between Elle and monster.
Well, I think that would probably involve Elle being some sort of key to the upside down. You know what I mean? Without her being focused in a specific way, or maybe even she needs to be scared for the monster to exist in some way or shape or form. Maybe it's emotion driven. We don't know yet. I don't think we yet have enough information to make that call. So I would definitely be looking to season 2 to answer questions like that.
Do you think there's any chance that there's the other experimented on kids will come back into play, and maybe they have pet monsters, and maybe that's an origination point for the other monsters?
Huh, that would be interesting. It's sort of a My Little Monster edition sort of thing. That would be an
the effed up version,
yeah. Opportunity.
Unless the other kids were just all failures and Elle was the only, I guess.
Maybe, yeah. It took 10 dead kids before they got to 11, which is kind of depressing.
That is kind of depressing. They came out, there was a question after the fact whether Barb was actually alive or dead still, but I think
Barb.
Yeah, they came out and they actually confirmed that she died. She died in the Upside Down. So people can die.
I think that's interesting because one of the things that the show did really well was that they're using kids who are not, as we mentioned before, necessarily all that Disney attractive. And I think to die from that same trope that is kind of a reversal on this sort of stylistic approach and tone that they've taken with the show. So I think it's an interesting choice, if not maybe just a little bit of lazy writing.
I forget if it was the last scene or not. There's the shot where after the party he takes some food in a plate, right? And he takes it out into the middle of the wilderness and goes and leaves it in one of those nature boxes.
Yeah.
Is that for Elle? Is that for someone else? Like, does he know something that we don't know? And how the hell does he know it? Give me all those answers.
Okay, first off, the answer is yes. 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 I don't necessarily think that she's living out in the wilderness. Maybe it's a hopeful gesture that he does for maybe hoping for her return. You know, that's another one of those things that's not yet clear that hopefully we will get some illumination on.
Are you satisfied with the current state, I guess, what we know about the Upside Down, or do you feel like we should get more of an origin story for it?
Absolutely. I feel like, at least from the sort of the way the lore is set up in the show, there was a lot of seeming history behind the decisions that the scientists and government people were taking. So I'd really like to sort of get an idea of what existed before we popped into this universe. What type of research were they doing? Was there something like the MK Ultra project where they were dosing people with LSD or something along those lines? I think there's a lot of interesting answers that could come from that direction as well. And, you know, at this point, the show is wide open, so they could do whatever they want.
Last thing I want to talk about is this theory, and that was kind of the notion that this whole Upside Down thing was kind of a rendering of Elle's mind, or even that 11 is the monster, or is projecting the monster, and that kind of, maybe that plays into the whole idea of like they're the world Upside Down counterparts, right? They're connected. Right. But is there a chance that the Upside Down is just all in the head and people are going in and out of Elle's mind, or is this really an absolute parallel universe that they're going into?
For me personally, I really hope that it's an accurate representation of the multiverse theory. I think that would be really interesting to bring into a show and to sort of put your own spin on it. Sort of has been done in a lot of different ways, and, you know, without bringing some realism to it, I think there might be some missed opportunities there. Basically, what we're seeing a lot of right now in terms of movies and upcoming movies is sort of near-term sci-fi, which is very exciting. And I think one of the tones and tenets of that sort of movement is having that level of realism, not necessarily grittiness, but a layer of realism that helps add authenticity to the show or movie.
I guess I tend to hope that I side with you. I don't want this to be kind of an apparition. I don't want this to be some sort of mind game or mind trick. I want the experience. I want the whole experience of there's an alternate universe, and each of these friends kind of team up into a literal Dungeons and Dragons party. They each have their role. One is the mage. One's the cleric. You know, they in some sort of realistic, kind of quasi realistic form. They develop their powers. Maybe. Yeah. Some sort of powers, like...
Yeah, you're talking my language, man. Like, this is like sort of dream extended. I think you're really tapped into a sort of notion that would bring the childhood fantasy to a whole different level. And I'm not sure if the world's ready for that sort of thing yet, but I think
we're ready for it.
We would be ready for it. And, you know, Game of Thrones is on, so that's magic. So take that, mainstream society.
These guys gave us something special here. This was a hell of a series. There's so many references and so many tropes that we were talking about that there's just too many to talk about. You know what I mean? This was an enjoyable ride. Duffer Brothers created something authentic here. I'm a better person for having this in my life, and it makes me very proud to be from the 80s, so to speak, to have lived through the 80s. Final thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. You know, I think if there's anybody who's still on the fence about watching this show, you should probably just fall off that fence. Probably not even watch the show, because if none of what we've said thus far has swayed you, I think you might not be interested in the show, which is okay. You know, maybe look for something else to watch.
All right, guys, that's gonna do it for us for the Stranger Things discussion. We enjoyed talking this out one-on-one, mano-y-mano. Definitely, let's talk about this in the comments, guys. If you like this video, please give us a like, subscribe. If there's any videos or trailers you want us to react to, please let us know. If you want us to do any kind of dual reaction videos, please let us know.
We want to produce the content that you guys want while also sort of scratching our own itch. Let us know what you want. We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, what he said. All right, guys, I'm Ben.
I'm Corey.
Someone just peel out.
It sounded like somebody slammed on the brakes. She's asking me what we're doing for lunch, and I already had a oven burrito. Sour cream.
Are you gonna pretend you didn't?
Depends on what she offers. If we're talking about maybe video or something like that, I might be able to get behind a little second
Mano-y-mano.
And let us know what you guys think too.
So
it was something that should have been said, but I didn't have anything to cover.
That was good. I'm actually gonna leave that part of that in there. I know what I'm gonna do with that.
What's her name? Michelle? I don't know if I fucked that up.
Barb. No.
Barb. Fucking Barb. I said Michelle, meant to say Barb.
Sorry, I'll take that out.